and materially. But what is your real goal? The Christian understanding of the mission or goal of marriage is deep character change through deep friendship. Deep character change through deep friendship. Empirical studies show, anecdotal evidence is, and even, I just saw the other day, an eHarmony TV ad confirms that what people are looking for today is what they call a perfectly compatible soulmate. Now, if you ask most people what that means, they usually say, and that's what I mean by when I said I just saw the other day an eHarmony TV ad. It was a guy up there saying, I'm looking for my perfect soulmate, somebody who will accept me just as I am, and I can appreciate her just as she is. And really, the surveys show that when people talk about a perfectly, especially men, by the way, say, I'm looking for somebody who will not change me, and somebody who will accept me just as I am. Now, there's an enormous problem with this. If that's your idea of compatibility, somebody who is low maintenance, doesn't need a lot of change, somebody who's not going to demand a lot of change from you, somebody with whom you already have all this great chemistry, you're going to have a lot of fun with, this is the reason why you're not getting married. Because there really isn't anybody like that out there. You're trying to pose as somebody like that so they'll marry you, but you're not like that either. Now listen. Look, when you get married, you're coming into with all your flaws. Let me just give you a list that I thought about the other day when I was getting ready to come here. You may be a fearful person with a tendency to great anxiety, a proud person with a tendency to be selfish, an inflexible person with a tendency to be demanding, an undisciplined person with a tendency to be unreliable, a perfectionistic person who tends to be too critical of other people, an impatient, irritable person who tends to hold grudges, a cowardly person who tends to twist the truth to look good. And that's just the first 10. I'm not going to go on. Everybody comes into marriage with stuff like that. And you know, your siblings told you about it, your parents told you about it, but you kind of wrote it off. You know, you kind of agree to it because you have to agree to it, but you really don't think it's as serious as people say. And so it's never really sunk in. Your flaws have not sunk in. And then you get married. And now the same flaws that created small problems for you in other relationships create big problems in this relationship, and you can't avoid it because there are no two compatible people. All people come in flawed, and therefore you're fundamentally incompatible. All people come in selfish and self-centered, so everybody's fundamentally incompatible. In fact, marriage will bring out the worst in you. You know, I remember there was a bridge when I was a little kid. There was an old stone bridge where I lived, and there were actually stress fractures, and it was really a bridge in trouble. You couldn't see it until some big truck would come over it, and then the weight would not create the fissures and fractures, but would reveal them. They would get bigger, and you could actually see them. It was very scary and dangerous, and I have no idea why I was standing under the bridge looking at the time. That's probably because I was 10 years old. But the point is, your spouse is a huge Mack truck coming through your life, coming onto your heart, and not creating the problems, but showing the problems that were there. There's huge incompatibilities. And it's not just that you're incompatible because when you come into marriage, but actually you change when you get into marriage. Stanley Hauerwas of Duke University has this very famous and to many people infuriating passage. He says, the assumption is that there is someone just right for us to marry, and that if we look closely enough, we will find that just right person. This assumption overlooks a very crucial aspect to marriage. It fails to appreciate the fact that you always marry the wrong person. We never know whom we marry, we just think we do. Or even if we first marry the right person, just give it a while and he or she will change. For marriage, being the enormous thing it is, means we are not the same person after we've entered it. One of the primary challenges of marriage is learning how to love and care for the stranger to whom you so often find yourself married. Now, if this is true, that you always marry the wrong person, you always marry an incompatible person, and even if the person isn't incompatible, when you marry him or her, the person will get incompatible. If this is true, and I dare you to find somebody who's been married more than a few years who will deny that, then three things, and these are the Christian responses to this. First of all, the Christian idea of marriage is based on the biblical idea of human sin. The Bible, the Christian teaching is that all human beings are selfish and sinful. We all want to be our own little gods. That's the biblical view. And therefore, if you are informed by the Christian view of marriage, when you get into marriage, you're not going to be shocked. One of the biggest reasons why you have, the Kim Kardashian thing happen is because people are shocked they haven't been actually prepared. And they think because they've been told that if you have the perfect soulmate, these clashes shouldn't happen. The fact of the matter is you're brought into marriage and you knock the rough edges off of each other, just like two gems put into a gem tumbler knock the rough edges off of each other, because they're moved around and they polish each other. But there's a clash, there's a constructive clash. So the first thing is you embrace that. In fact, you talk about it before you get married. You say, this is one of our missions in life, and that is to help each other grow into people that we would never grow into if we weren't married to each other. That's one of your purposes. Secondly, if this is true, then you shouldn't be looking for a finished, this is what Kathy would say if she was here. When you're trying to think about a prospective spouse, don't look for a finished statue, look for a great block of marble. That's what she would say. And here's what she means by that. You want to fall in love with the person you got in front of you, but just as important, you want to be in love with the person you see that person becoming. Whenever one of our favorite places in the world for Kathy and me to go is the western part of England, either northern Wales or the Highlands of Scotland or the Lake District. And one of the problems, if any of you know anything about those areas, is it's always raining there. There's these gorgeous mountains, and you can go there for like 3 or 4 days, and you don't see the mountains, or you only see it briefly. In fact, what usually happens is you're sitting there and you're looking out your window day after day, and you see nothing but beautiful green grass. That's why it's always so green. And then suddenly it starts to clear. And then the sun kind of comes out, and it parts, and there's this gorgeous mountain, and you look at it for an hour, and then it starts to rain again. That's it. You remember where it was. There it was. In many ways, when you fall in love with somebody, you're supposed to be, you don't overdo what the person looks like, first of all, because they're not going to stay looking like that. If you want to have the absolute richness of a long-term marriage, don't overdo what they look like, because you're going to change anyway. But don't even look only at their character now. I mean, what you're looking for is you're looking at things like character, courage, wisdom, strength, self-denial, empathy, the ability to understand other people. You're looking for all those things, but what you should every so often get a glimpse, but then it usually goes away, of some great thing this person is becoming. The Christian idea is you fall in love especially with not just the person as he or she is, but the person that he or she is becoming. And the Christian idea is you say, your future excites me, and I want to be there with God, making you into that great future person. I mean, the whole idea, sorry, this is a bit of a bridge too far, I imagine, for some who are listening to me, but I mean, the Christian idea is that someday, instead of standing in front of, the priest or the pastor or the rabbi or all that, when you go up there to get married, someday you're standing before the throne in heaven, and you're now fully everything that God wants you to be, and you look at each other and you say, I always knew you could be like this. I always saw glimpses of it, and now look at you. And to know I was part of that process. I know, listen, this is part of the mission of marriage. It's falling in love not just with the person as they are, but the person as they're going to be. And what that means then, if you're going to be in a relationship, here's the last thing about this mission idea. The mission of marriage, if it's really true that no two people are compatible, you're always incompatible, you need to embrace that incompatibility. You expect the conflict. Secondly, you fall in love not just with a person who's perfect now, but a person that you see the person becoming. Great raw material, etc. You expect there to be changes. But lastly, you should be looking for somebody who is or could be your best friend. See, if that's the purpose of marriage, deep character change through deep friendship, then you're looking for somebody who could be your most trusted counselor and your best friend, even if the person isn't yet.